The sun beat down mercilessly on the village of Olhoda, baking the earth into a cracked, barren canvas. Dust devils danced across the parched fields, mocking the villagers' desperate prayers for rain. Water, once a given, was now a luxury, hoarded in clay pots and rationed with agonizing precision. Among the suffering, young Oisha felt the drought's cruel grip most acutely. Her mother, frail and weakened by a persistent cough, lay on a thin mat, her breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. The village healer had prescribed a concoction of herbs, but without clean water to brew it, the remedy was useless. Oisha, barely a teenager, carried the weight of her family's survival on her slender shoulders. Her days were a relentless cycle of searching for meager scraps of food and queuing for hours at the communal well, often returning with little more than a few muddy drops. Desperation gnawed at her, a cold, sharp ache in her stomach that mirrored the emptiness in the village whispers, like the dry rustle of dead leaves, often drifted through the village about the old well, nestled deep within the gnarled, ancient olive groves on the outskirts. It was a place shunned by all, a relic of a forgotten time. Legends claimed it was cursed, a dark portal to another realm, guarded by a malevolent Jinn. No one dared approach it, not even in their most desperate hour. But as her mother's cough grew weaker, and the last drops of water dwindled, Aisha's fear began to give way to a reckless resolve. The whispers of the Jinn, once terrifying, now held a strange, alluring promise. Under the cloak of a moonless night, Oisha slipped out of her small hut, a single, cracked clay pot clutched in her trembling hands. The air was heavy with the scent of parched earth and unspoken fears. Every rustle of leaves, every distant howl of a jackal, sent shivers down her spine. Yet, the image of her mother's fading eyes spurred her onward. The path to the old well was overgrown, thorny bushes tearing at her worn clothes, but Oisha pressed on, her bare feet navigating the treacherous terrain with a silent determination. As she neared the well, an unnatural chill permeated the air, despite the oppressive heat of the day. The ancient olive trees, their branches twisted into grotesque shapes, seemed to writhe in the faint starlight, their shadows dancing like spectral figures. A low, guttural hum vibrated through the ground, growing louder with each step. Aisha's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the suffocating silence. The well itself was a gaping maw in the earth, its stone rim crumbling, choked with dry vines. A faint, phosphorescent glow emanated from its depths, casting an eerie light on the surrounding desolation. She peered into the darkness, her breath catching in her throat. The hum intensified, morphing into a chorus of whispers, not in any language she knew, yet somehow intelligible. They spoke of thirst, of ancient pacts, of desires fulfilled and prices paid. A shadowy form began to coalesce within the well's depths, swirling like smoke, gradually taking on a vaguely human shape. It was tall, impossibly slender, with eyes that glowed with an otherworldly luminescence. This was the Jinn, the entity of legend, and it was far more terrifying, and yet, more captivating, than any story had prepared her for. The Jinn's voice, when it spoke, was a symphony of echoes, a whisper that resonated deep within her soul. Water, child of dust, it rasped, its form shifting, momentarily revealing glimpses of shimmering scales and obsidian claws. You seek what is denied to your kind. Aisha, paralyzed by a mixture of fear and awe, could only nod, her throat too dry to speak. And what? The Jinn continued, its voice now a silken caress. Are you willing to offer for such a gift? Aisha's mind raced. She had nothing of value, no gold, no jewels. Only her life, her family, her very being. Anything, she croaked, the word barely a whisper. Anything for my mother. The Jinn's glowing eyes seemed to bore into her, assessing, calculating. A promise then, it finally said, its voice laced with an unsettling amusement. A promise of something you hold dear, the exact nature of which will reveal itself in time. Before Oisha could question, before she could even comprehend the full weight of its words, the well began to churn. A geyser of crystal clear water erupted from its depths, overflowing its ancient rim, a torrent of life in the barren landscape. Oisha, stunned, quickly filled her pot, the cool water a balm against her parched skin. She looked up, but the Jinn was gone, leaving only the lingering scent of ozone and a profound sense of unease. Oisha returned to her village, the heavy pot of water a beacon of hope in the pre-dawn gloom. Her mother, revived by the cool, clean water, began to mend, and the village, witnessing the miraculous flow from the once cursed well, rejoiced, The drought, it seemed, was broken. Life slowly returned to Al Hoda, crops began to sprout, and the laughter of children once again echoed through the dusty streets. Aisha, hailed as a savior, found herself surrounded by a newfound respect and gratitude. Yet, beneath the surface of this renewed prosperity, a chilling unease began to fester within her. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Shadows seemed to lengthen and deepen in her peripheral vision, darting away just as she tried to focus on them. Whispers, faint and insidious, would brush against her ears when she was alone, speaking in a language that was both foreign and strangely familiar. She would wake in the dead of night, convinced she heard her name being called from the depths of the well, a sound that resonated not in her ears, but in the very core of her being. Her joy, once so vibrant, began to feel muted, as if a thin veil had been drawn over her emotions. Laughter felt less genuine, sorrow less profound. It was as if a part of her was slowly, painstakingly, being siphoned away. One evening, as she sat by the fire, watching her mother finally sleep soundly, a memory flickered in her mind, a cherished moment with her deceased father, a shared secret, a silly joke. But as she tried to grasp it, to savor the warmth of the recollection, it slipped away, like sand through her fingers. A cold dread washed over her. This was the Jinn's price. Not her life, not her mother's, but something far more insidious. Her memories, her emotions, the very essence of what made her Aisha. The Jinn was not a monster of flesh and blood, but a devourer of souls, thriving on the vibrant tapestry of human experience. It had given her water, but in return, it was slowly draining her of her humanity, leaving behind an empty vessel. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, no longer just a hum, but a chorus of ancient voices, each one a fragment of a stolen memory, a devoured emotion. Aisha was trapped, bound by a bargain she had made in desperation, a bargain whose true cost was only now revealing itself in its horrifying entirety. The realization hit Aisha with the force of a physical blow. The Jinn wasn't after her life, it was after her soul, her very essence. It fed on her emotions, her memories, slowly turning her into a hollow shell. The thought sent a fresh wave of terror through her, but beneath it, a spark of defiance ignited. She wouldn't let it win. She wouldn't become another one of its forgotten meals. She sought out the oldest person in the village, an ancient woman named Zora, whose eyes held the wisdom of generations. Zora lived in a small, secluded hut, surrounded by herbs and ancient texts. Aisha, her voice trembling, recounted her tale, the bargain with the Jinn, the slow draining of her spirit. Zora listened patiently, her gaze unwavering, a knowing sadness in her eyes. The Jinn of the Whispering Well, Zora finally said, her voice raspy with age. It is an ancient one, a consumer of human experience. It cannot be killed, but it can be banished. Its power lies in the despair it cultivates, the emptiness it creates. To defeat it, you must offer something it cannot consume. Pure, selfless love. Zora then described a ritual, an ancient rite that required a sacrifice, not of blood or pain, but of something truly cherished, given with a heart full of love and hope, not despair. Aisha thought of her father, and the silver locket he had given her before he passed, her most treasured possession. It was a symbol of their bond, a tangible piece of her past. Giving it up would be like losing a part of him again, a part of herself. But then she thought of her mother, of the village, of the life that had been given back to them. This was not despair. This was love. Under the pale light of the crescent moon, Aisha returned to the Whispering Well, Zora by her side. The Jinn's presence was palpable, a suffocating weight in the air, its whispers now a furious roar. Aisha held the locket in her hand, its cool metal a comfort against her trembling palm. She closed her eyes, picturing her father's smile, her mother's grateful eyes, the vibrant life of her village. With a deep breath, she opened her hand and let the locket fall into the dark depths of the well. As the locket hit the water, a blinding flash of pure, white light erupted from the well, momentarily eclipsing the moon. The Jinn's roar turned into a shriek of agony, a sound that tore through the night. The shadowy form writhed, contorted, and then, with a final, ear-splitting wail, it dissipated into nothingness. The oppressive chill lifted, replaced by a gentle breeze that carried the scent of rain. Silence descended upon the well, a profound, peaceful silence. The whispers were gone. The well, though still ancient, no longer held the aura of dread. Aisha, though exhausted, felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in months. The memories that had been slipping away now felt firmly rooted, her emotions vibrant once more. She had faced the darkness within herself and emerged victorious. The village of Al-Hoda flourished, the rains returned, and the fields yielded bountiful harvests. Aisha, though she never spoke of the Jinn, carried the experience with her, a silent testament to her resilience. She became a symbol of hope, a quiet strength that inspired her community. The Whispering Well remained, a reminder of the darkness that once threatened to consume them, but also of the power of selfless love, a love that could banish even the most ancient of evils. Aisha, the poor girl who had dared to bargain with a Jinn, had not only saved her village, but had also found the true strength within herself.